No, I haven't heard definitively about September 8th, so that is still an outstanding question, but we could kind of hedge our bets and say it would be the 8th or the 22nd for continued public hearing.
Okay. Greer, we're still waiting on Greer?
Kevin
Are we
Greer,
meeting- Are we meeting at the end of this month?
No,
No?
no. We only have one meeting in August.
All right, so our next meeting is not until September the something or other?
correct. We're working on a specific date for you in September, either the 8th or the 22nd, depends on what we're able to figure out,
Or both,
or both. Definitely the 22nd. We may have one the 8th.
right?
Okay, we're ready to go live now, Bart.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Planning and Zoning regular meeting for Tuesday, August 18th. We do have, is Commissioner Greer on? No, okay. So we are light, a couple commissioners tonight. I'm going to seat Commissioner Bernstein for Commissioner Foley and Commissioner McGuire for Commissioner Greer. At this time, we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
One nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we're going to be doing things a little bit different than we usually do it. But first thing I'm going to do is our normal statement. This meeting is being held live stream through a WebEx call on our website as well as local channels and will be operated under the following procedures. This session is being audio recorded and video recorded. To ensure sound quality, the default rule for this meeting is that everyone will remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping video of themselves on throughout the meeting. Applicants should feel free to leave their video on or off. However, they will be asked to turn on their video when speaking. The public can provide public comments by email and or phone. The email address and phone number with the meeting code can be found on the front of the agenda. During public meetings, all the normal rules, including stating and now spelling your name, still apply. If you are speaking at this meeting and have an exhibit to submit to the commission, which was not distributed in advance of the meeting with the rest of the materials, please indicate that you wish to submit an exhibit. You will need to hold it up to the camera so that the commission and all members of the public may review it. In addition, you will be required to email the exhibit or take a photograph of it and email it to planningzoningcomments@southwindsor.org. And it will be included in the permanent records of the commission. Members of the public may only speak during public participation for an item that is not on the agenda and during the public hearing comment period. Lastly, a reminder to the public on the phone to press *3 to indicate that you want to speak and #, to get back to the main menu. Our order of business tonight is going to be our regular meeting first. I will call that application, which is application 20-30P, Windsor Federal Savings and Loan. Do we have someone here for that application?
Yeah, Chairman, we're letting multiple people in at this time. I just did want to make one other announcement. We are experimenting tonight with YouTube as well. It is just something that IT is trying out, so that the meeting is through our website, but if you hear that we're out on YouTube, that's because they're experimenting a little bit with YouTube as well. So just wanted commissioners to be aware of that.
Oh, I wish I knew that beforehand. Okay,
We're getting everybody in, so bear with us just a minute here.
okay.
I think Ben Wheeler's probably going to take it over when we get to that point.
So Peter.
He's not there.
Is not there, and George Herman, I can't make a panelist for some reason.
Okay.
Everyone else.
Okay, we have everybody here.
Okay, if the applicant is ready, the applicant for 20-30P Windsor Federal Savings, please go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Ben Wheeler, Director of Operations from Design Professionals, Inc. In South Windsor. Also a licensed landscape architect in the state of Connecticut. As I'm getting some introductions here, if I could request permission to share my screen while you're working on that, I'll go through some introductions of other people that I have joining me this evening. I believe also listening in and available is George Herman, who is the CEO of Windsor Federal. Daniel Jameson, who's a licensed professional engineer from our office at Design Professionals. Rachel Meyer, who is a project landscape designer at Design Professionals. Jim Becker and Catherine Meese from Tecton Architects. They were the architects for the design of this wonderful building. And also Matt Skelly from Fuss & O'Neill, who was the traffic consultant for this project. And I will start sharing my screen here. Hopefully you can all see that. So obviously this is an application for Windsor Federal, a new branch, their first branch located in South Windsor. They are certainly very excited about becoming a part of the community here in South Windsor. They are always community players. They're a nice community bank. They are actually already leasing space next door to this site at 152 Deming Street. And they're very eager to get started on this project and move into their own building. So as such, because of the limited time we have available tonight, because I know you have a very packed agenda, I will be handling the entire presentation and keep it as brief as I possibly can. And then the rest of the team that I introduced will be available for questions should the commission or anybody else have any of us. So this site is located at the northwest corner of Buckland Road, which is north-south on the plan, and Deming Street, which runs east-west, as you know. This will be known as 176 Deming Street, and it is for a 2,600 odd square feet bank branch with a drive-through. The bank building is going into the currently vacant site where Woodcock attorney used to have his office there at the building that was raised within the last couple of years. So now it's a vacant site that Windsor Federal has an agreement to purchase and to build this facility on their site. The main access for this building will be off of Deming Street at the current access point that services many office buildings and the south end of the Samsel and Carmel Funeral Home, which you see at the north end, the top end of this exhibit here. That access point will be widened to meet town standards for parking width, parking access width, and to make sure that traffic flow through that area, it will facilitate better traffic flow. As a part of this proposal, we're providing 33 parking spaces around 3 sides of the building. Only 16 are required per zoning, but as a proof of how Windsor Federal is a community player, they've worked very closely with the Samsel and Carmen Funeral Home, understanding that, especially during large events, the funeral home is short on the number of parking spaces. So they've already come to an agreement with the funeral home to use the proposed bank parking lot as overflow parking for any large events at the funeral home. So that is why we're providing so many parking spaces as a part of this proposal. And certainly with the access point on Deming Street, and then also using the potential funeral home or the existing funeral home access on Buckland Road as a potential access. Travel easements are proposed and will be filed should this project get approved. If we zoom in on the site plan a little bit, there are walkways around the building. Those will actually be permeable pavers. So it'll be a nice look to the building, complementing the building, and also aid in making sure that we meet the impervious coverage zoning requirements. In addition to that, we're providing crosswalks and sidewalk extensions connecting to both Buckland Road and to Deming Street. The Deming Street connection will connect into a sidewalk, a new sidewalk that Windsor Federal will build all the way from the intersection at the road all the way down to that shared access point that I mentioned earlier. It's important to note there is no dumpster proposed as a part of this site plan. In general, these days in the digital age, Windsor Federal does not generate a large amount of refuse. What is generated is typically either shredded, or the crew that they have that comes in and cleans the facility will take care of any refuse and dispose of it off-site as appropriate. As for landscaping is concerned, we've provided a landscape plan with the application. It provides foundation plantings around all sides of the building with low shrubs and perennials in the islands, as well as several flowering and deciduous trees throughout the parking lot, meeting the zoning regulations. And then also, it's important to note that there's a large tree. It's difficult to see on this plan, especially for those of you using a small screen, but there's as you may recall, there's a large maple tree that exists near the existing intersection of Buckland Road and Deming Street. And our efforts in this plan are to save that tree and make sure that it becomes a long-term asset to the property. I do want to note, even though Mr. Foley is not present tonight, that we will commit, the applicant will commit Windsor Federal to irrigate the landscape and lawn areas on this property to make sure that it is maintained in the highest order, especially given this visible location in town. As far as site lighting is concerned, we have 4 full cutoff LED lights, 3 in islands around the building, and then another one over closer to the entrance. They'll be 18 feet high. They meet the zoning regulations. The light levels that we've provided in the site plan applications show that the light levels do meet the zoning regulations. When we went through the process with Architectural Design Review Committee, one comment that we did receive was a little concern about low light levels, considering the fact that this was going to be a shared parking arrangement with a funeral home. The current plans that you have before you address those comments, and we were able to provide higher light levels without increasing the number of poles on the site. As I mentioned, we did submit with the application a traffic report prepared by Fuss and O'Neill that was submitted with the application. We also provided to town staff today a memo which updated that report to include the traffic information that was submitted with the Costco application. And as a summary of both that report and the memo, this project will not have any adverse impacts on the surrounding roadway network. As far as the building is concerned, it's a single story inside the building, but its portions of the building look like a 2-story building on the outside. And the reason for that is because this building is going to sit lower than the intersection of Buckland Road and Deming Street. So we wanted to make sure that as you're sitting at that intersection, you're not looking down on the roof of this building. But nonetheless, it's a nice looking building. It's a modern colonial look, I would say, with a mix of brick at the corners and clapboard siding, and a standing seam metal roof with a skylight at the highest peak that you can see here to let in natural light during the daytime, and then also provide a soft glow in the evening. Certainly this is complementary to other buildings in the area. If you think about the residents at South Windsor Farms directly across Buckland Road, and the People's United Bank on the opposite corner, on the southeast corner, very complementary to those buildings for sure, as well as the funeral home and the other office buildings in the area. As I mentioned, we went to Architectural Design Review Committee. It was very well received. One comment, positive comment that we did receive was the clapboard siding areas originally were proposed to be all white. And we received the recommendation to implement a, not a drastic change, but a dove gray color. And the updated renderings that you have before you and the plans that we've submitted have taken that comment and implemented that just to provide a little contrast. So it's not, the entire clapboard siding is not completely white as we originally proposed. There is building signage proposed on 3 sides of the building, the north, east, and south sides that you can see in your renderings, as well as a ground-mounted sign that is located near the intersection, and that's what this rendering shows. That ground-mounted sign will have a brick base to match the building, internally lit logo where only the light will shine through the white parts of the logo, and a halo lit, backlit letter signage to provide a soft glow for the name at night. Obviously, we did receive comments from town staff. Most of those have been addressed in the revised plans that we've submitted. We do understand that we have one outstanding comment with the town engineer, Mr. Doolittle, to analyze the capacity of the downstream sites on the adjacent sites, which our property will be draining to. We don't anticipate that will be a problem. There are no existing known problems on the site, and we are reducing flows to that pipe system. But certainly, as typical, should you find reason to approve this project, we'll accept that as a condition of approval to address in our final plans. So as I mentioned, I keep it short. We believe this is a great project, a great looking building. We want to welcome Windsor Federal to South Windsor and making sure that they're a good community player. As I mentioned, I know you're on limited time frame, but given their schedule and their anxiousness to get started, we hope that you can deliberate and make a decision tonight if at all possible. And with that, I'll conclude and turn it over. Like I said, any of our team members are available should you have any questions.
Director of Planning, Michelle Light.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief too. You should have all received my report with the agenda. So this is a request for site plan development for 2,600 and change square foot in banks, including a drive-through property to be known as 176 Deming Street. It's formerly 395 Buckland Road in the restricted commercial zone. The site will be accessed in 2 locations, one from the existing Carmel Funeral Home on Buckland Road, as well as the existing access drive off of Deming Street. This does meet the goals of our access management program, so we are glad to be eliminating a driveway along Buckland Road. Impervious coverage for this proposal is 58.6%. We do allow up to 60%. Parking requirements for a financial institution of this size would require 16 spaces. As indicated by the applicant, they're providing 33 spaces. Primary purpose of the extra spacing is to help mitigate the parking need at the funeral home, particularly in the off hours, so that they have made those arrangements with the funeral home related to that. We do have sidewalk connections out to both Deming and Buckland Road. That is a new sidewalk we completed on Buckland Road, and then they will be adding sidewalks along the Deming Street frontage, furthering our goals of connecting the network out there. The building will be set about 13 feet down from Buckland Road, so you will have a retaining wall that ranges from 3 to 7 feet in height. On top of that wall, they're proposing a wrought iron fence similar to what you see across the street at the residence, so that it'll complement the look across the street. As indicated, design review did review this proposal on July 16th. The 2 recommendations have been accommodated. One was to look at the lighting, and the other was to look at the building color so that we didn't have white on white, and we appreciate the applicant taking those considerations. We do have proposed lighting and 4 poles around the site, as well as building lighting. The landscaping plan does save the significant maple at the corner. We're pleased to see that, as well as perimeter trees and foundation plantings. They have met our landscape safety requirement with 15% of internal landscaping. As indicated, there's no dumpster shown. The owner does not need one for this use. I would note that if any future user were to use this building, you certainly have adequate parking for the dumpster location, so that is not really of a concern. for this application. They did receive IWA approval on July 1st with a recommendation of a $10,000 erosion sedimentation bond and a $10,000 stormwater bond. Public water and sewer will be provided to the site. Water Pollution Control Authority will be required. The fire marshal has reviewed the plans and has no issue with proposed site layout. If this application is approved, the planning department does request that a crosswalk be added along the driveway on Deming, just so that we can complete the cross and a landing on that side, which I believe the applicant heard from the town engineer related to that. And those are planning comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'll turn to our town engineer, Jeff Doolittle.
Thank you. Just one comment outstanding. They did a good job answering my comments. I asked them to inspect the downstream drainage system to the outfall, which is behind several other buildings to the west, and make sure that it can accommodate the flow from this development. And they said they agreed to do that before construction.
Okay. No other comments, Jeff?
Nope. Everything else was taken care of.
Okay. Do we have anything to read into the record regarding this application?
No, we do not.
Okay. At this time, we will open it up to commissioners. Commissioners, anyone?
Steve and Elizabeth both are asking, Bart.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Wagner?
Okay, quick question. I see the sidewalk ends basically at the driveway. Does that also coincide with the property line? Because I think we're going to be looking at some work over on the other side in Evergreen Walk that might benefit from a sidewalk connection, AKA Costco.
Yes, you're correct. The sidewalk does basically end at the property line. We have, as Michelle indicated, we have shown on the latest plans a crosswalk and a landing on the other side of that driveway to make any future connections that might be warranted.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner McGuire?
Thank you, Bart. I'm a little unclear about the access from Buckland. Am I correct in that people going to the bank could turn into the existing funeral home driveway, go through the parking lot and to the bank? Am I correct on that?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, it strikes me as a little hazardous. What about if there's a wake or a funeral going on at that point?
The funeral home, if there is a large crowd at that point, the funeral home certainly controls traffic in and out of there. And that is part of the agreement that they have worked out with the bank. So it certainly, because there is an access off of Deming Street as well, that's not the only place that somebody could enter. They could continue down Buckland Road, make a right onto Deming and enter the bank that way as well.
Right. I drove in there today and it's a little congested anyway. And so I thought if there were people crossing from the parking area to get to into the building, it just seemed to me a little bit that it could be a little bit hazardous. So that's a concern.
Is that all, Commissioner
Yes.
McGuire? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Any other commissioners?
Yes, I have a question.
I'm not sure who that was.
It's Paul.
Oh, Paul.
Commissioner Bernstein, yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bernstein? Yep.
Thank you. Ben, I'm looking at the rendering that we received and the 4 15-foot light poles. I really like them, but it seems to me that in the dark, 4 light poles would not be sufficient. Am I missing something?
Well, anytime we do a site lighting plan, we model it using the software and the the information that's provided by the manufacturers. We feel that there's adequate light through the parking lot based on those 4 poles. Like I said, architectural design review did have a little bit of a concern, so we did increase the height slightly and then also increase the power of those lights to help address that. But yeah, we feel that based on the modeling with the lighting software, it will provide adequate light throughout the parking lot and the walkway areas.
All right, I see that there's lighting, some lighting that is part of the facility itself, so that would add. So I will go with your response and looking forward to it. It's a great project. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to kind of further on that last comment there, yeah, there is existing lighting right next door at the funeral home. Our models do not take that into account or take into account any street lighting that might have some ambient light that spills over onto the site too.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, are there any other commissioners that would like to speak on this application?
I have a question.
Commissioner Flagg?
Yes. Michelle, you said that the 3 to 7 foot wall with the black wrought iron fence, is that going to be on the Buckland Street side?
You want to answer that, Ben? I think it goes around the corner, correct?
Sure. Yeah, I can answer that. So as Michelle mentioned, the site, because of the grading and the access points to the parking lot, the site is the building itself is going to sit lower. So the retaining wall will be low. It actually won't be visible from Buckland Road. The fence will sit on the Buckland Road side and will sit on the high side of the fence. So as you're driving along Buckland Road, what you'll see is the fence on top of the retaining wall.
Okay. All right. My second question was, Ben, can you tell me what the completion date of this is supposed to be?
I don't have that information for sure. Like I said, I do know that Windsor Federal is eager to get started. They're looking to start as soon as they can, especially with time flying and the construction season closing. I would imagine that it is probably not scheduled to open until sometime in 2021.
Okay, because my question was actually to the bank person, and that is, do they expect their lobbies will be open for this, considering the circumstances we're in now? Or just be using the drive-in? See, some banks are using just drive-through right now, and I'm wondering if they're expecting their lobbies to be open.
I don't know if George can speak, but certainly if we've learned anything from 2020 is that given the current situation, things are unpredictable. So by the time the construction happens and this branch is ready to open, I'm sure that it would be difficult for him to predict one way or the other whether their lobby will be open or closed or anything along those lines.
My concern was if the lobbies aren't open, there'll be a lot of traffic going through the drive-through, and that would be a lot of traffic going around through the roadway also. So that was my main concern.
Sure. The good news is with regards to that, if that's the case, if it is only the drive-through, because of the access points, we have plenty of circulation within our site and then also through the funeral home site before cars would back up onto either Deming Street or to Buckland Road.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Okay, Ben, what are the proposed hours for the bank?
Michelle, is it possible? Is George?
We've unmuted.
Here.
Yeah, we
Okay,
just.
George can speak. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is George Herman. I have the privilege of being the president and CEO of Windsor Federal. To address the last comment or the question, right now we're actually open. Our lobby and our the building we're in next door, we are open right now without during COVID. And this building is being designed in such a way that is taking in all of the most up-to-date protocols for COVID. So we would anticipate that we should be able to open the lobbies safely at the time. I mean, you never know what's going to be going on from that point. But our hours, 8 to 5, Monday to Thursday, and I think 8 to 6 on Friday, and then from 8 to noon on Saturday at this point.
Okay. And my question is, of course, the lighting will probably be left at whatever level until the hours of, I believe, maybe the funeral parlor next door. And then after those hours, can we get the lighting dimmed? Will you have a
Well,
system that can do that?
we haven't looked at that. Our concern with dimming the lighting is the fact that we're a financial institution. We want to make sure that we're well lit in case it's somebody, if something happens potentially in the property. So we want to make sure that it's well lit for security purposes at this point. But we'd be more than willing to work with the town, but we want to make sure that we have adequate, adequate lighting for security purposes for our exterior cameras, and in case anybody was trying to do anything nefarious, trying to get into the building, whatever. So we'd want to make sure that it was adequately lit at that point.
Okay. And you only have 4 lights, so it's not I don't think it's a big issue. Commissioners, is there anything else? Anybody else have any points? And I don't see any hands.
I can make a motion.
Okay,
So this is Commissioner Wagner. I move we approve application 20-30P, the Windsor Federal Savings and Loan site plan modification. We have standard conditions 1 through 11. I will read condition 3, which is this application is subject to the conditions of approval of the Inland Wetlands Agency Conservation Commission, including bonds in the amount of $10,000 for construction of stormwater controls, including the detention basin, and $10,000 for erosion and sedimentation control. Condition 4, a landscape bond in the amount of $4,000 is required and must be submitted prior to the filing of Mylars. And then there's a condition 12, engineering comments dated August 11th, 2020 must be incorporated into the final plans.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, question, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and at this time, we will be moving into our public hearing for Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. I'll let the secretary read the public notice.
To be published in the Journal Enquirer, Saturday, August 8th, 2020, and Thursday, August 13th, 2020, South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that there will be a public hearing on Tuesday, August 18th, 2020, at 7:30 p.m., held by way of an online WebEx conference meeting to consider the following. 1, application 20-02P, Kilkenny Heights 2 subdivision, request from Manorino Builders Inc. for a special exception to section 7.14 and site plan approval for an open space subdivision of 21.5 plus acres to create a total of 12 new lots on property located at R024 and 420 Abbey Road and 248 Maxwell Road, A-30 and RR zones. To view this meeting, please tune into channel 16 if your provider is Cox Cable, or channel 6082 if your provider is Frontier, or go to gmedia.swagit.com/live. To call in with comments into this meeting, please call WebEx conference call in number 855-925-2801, meeting code number to be provided on the agenda. Copies of this application are on file at the office of the town clerk and the planning department and online at https://ct.gov/planning-department/pages/planning-and-zoning-commission/applications. At this hearing, interested parties may be heard by calling into the meeting, and written comments by the public will be received by mail or email to planning and zoning comments at southwindsorct.gov. Persons who may require an accommodation can contact staff Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at 860-644-2511, extension 329. Bart Passaconis, Chairman, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Bonzani. We already seated our two commissioners. I'll just repeat, this is a WebEx conference call, and it is being audio recorded and video recorded. Okay, our application tonight is application -20-02P. Our order tonight will be to first hear from the applicant, then we will hear from town staff, then we will hear from members of the public, first those in favor, and then those against or having questions or concerns. We will also read some letters into the record, as well as open up the lines to anyone who would like to participate on this public hearing. Then we will hear from commissioners. So at this time, I'll call the applicant, application 20-02P, Kilkenny Heights 2 subdivision. Is there someone to represent the applicant here?
Yes, good evening. My name is Jay Erstry. I'm with J.R. Russo and Associates here this evening representing Manarino Builders, the applicant for this application. We're here in our office in East Windsor, Connecticut. Rob Manarino is here with me, and my partner Dana Steele, who was the project engineer on this particular project, is also here. You can't see them. They're either side of me here. We only have one small laptop here, but they are here and available should we need or have any questions for either one of them. And I'm sure Rob will have something to say at some point, because he always does, but that's a good thing. So thank you for allowing us to come before you this evening. I know it's been difficult for all of you here on the commissions with COVID and so forth, and we've kind of been going through it and learning new ways with different towns and different methodologies of doing things with applications, and we appreciate the opportunity to come before you this evening. So that said, I'd like to start just by giving you a basic overview, which was really read fairly well in terms of the description of the application, and then a little more information about what we talked about with you formally back in the fall to get us to where we are today. And I think there may be one new commission member, so I'm going to go over it just a little bit so we all can remember how we got to the point where we are. So again, this is an application special exception for an open space subdivision. It's a total of 13 lots, 12 new lots, one that was in the former phase, which is also part of this. And it's called Kilkenny Heights 2, and it's an extension of Maskill Road, which will come out and go to the west and connect into Abbey Road. The total length of the road is just over 1,000 feet, about 1,130, I think, in total. And it will incorporate a fairly large portion of open space that will be dedicated and conveyed to the town of South Windsor. This is about 12.3 acres total in size. And I think at this point, I'm going to share the screen with you and go to a color aerial that more or less depicts what I'm talking about here as we move forward. And I've got a number of different exhibits that I'm probably going to share with you tonight. So just bear with me here for a second while I see if we can do this. And where do I get our stuff here, Dana? So are you sharing? Yeah, click on that. There you go. All right. Warrant. Toby, this one. Oh, yeah. Got it. So, Mount Falls. Presentation here. Click on that. There we go. All right. So can everybody see that okay?
Yes,
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you. So again, just to go back and talk a little bit about how we got to this point here, and I'm going to kind of use the cursor, I guess, to show you where I am. And if you look here, we're at the end of Masco Road. This is the existing cul-de-sac. And this was a project that Rob completed back in '08. And we're now looking at extending, again, 12 new lots, which are located here. One existing lot that was left here at the end of the cul-de-sac that wasn't built on, and is now part of a portion of land that's located here off to the east, and we'll get to that. And then the road swings out and goes westerly, and we come back out to Abbey Road right over at this location here. So back in the fall, we came before you, and what your regulation says basically is when we're looking at one of these types of residential subdivisions that we need to consider a number of things. And one of them is whether or not we want to go with a conventional subdivision in the existing zone. In this case, it's the R zone, or whether we want to consider an open space subdivision. And we came before you and we showed you some different concepts. And we got to the point where open space was probably the way we wanted to go. And I can go back and we can take a quick look, I think, at some of those concepts. And this is another aerial shot that shows the conventional subdivision concept of whether it's no open space, fee in lieu of. And in this particular concept, again, we're showing an extension of the Masco Road cul-de-sac, and then a new road coming off to the east. Multiple lots, actually more lots than what we're showing in our new open space concept, but without an open space option. And this is one that I think the commission pretty much quickly decided that this wasn't the way to go with this particular subdivision. So moving forward, we then showed you an option with open space and just an extension of the cul-de-sac. In other words, extending the cul-de-sac straight to the north, terminating here. This had one less lot, 10 new lots, 11 total with the existing, but with 12 acres of open space that was located off here to the east. And that becomes very important, I think, in this application, in that this open space is contiguous with other space that the town of South Windsor already owns, additional open space. And if you look off here to the east where my cursor is, there's a piece here. There's another piece of open space that's located to the south there. And that one was associated with the Zen Tree Farm subdivision that, again, Manarino Builders did some years back. And when we put all of this together, we come up with a substantial open space parcel of over 30 acres with the new parcel that we're adding to it. So it becomes something that I think the commission, and we felt as well, was very important in terms of providing a nice piece of open space land to the town and adding it to the additional open space that's already there. There's a third concept, which is the one really that we're bringing before you tonight, which the commission decided that this is the way they want to go. The staff, public works and so forth, emergency services decided that they wanted this road to come through and connect up with Abbey Road. That's what this shows. Again, it's 12 new lots, 13 lots total, and it gives you that additional 12.3 acres of open space. And that open space is located over here to the east and to the south and to the east, and again, ties into existing open space land that the town already owns. And I think we all felt that this was the right way to do this. So one of the things that we did with regard to the open space is, how valuable piece of land is this? What is it giving the town in terms of passive recreation and so forth? So Manarino Builders hired REMA Ecological Services to go out and take a look at this piece of land. George Logan did a nice report, which is part of your application, and we have that here. And I'm just pulling up one page of it here that we can take a look at on the screen. And essentially, the 12 acres of open space that I've got the cursor on right here is the piece that's part of the subdivision dedication that would be conveyed to the town if this is approved. And again, here's the end of Masco Road. Our road would come through this particular parcel and come back out. But you can see these other areas of green are open space parcels that, again, the town of South Windsor already owns. And there's access here, full access off of Fraser Fur Road. This additional piece can be accessed through a right-of-way out to Masco Road at this location. And we're going to be providing an additional access up here on the north end of our project to access the north end of this parcel. So it's something that really ties together a very large portion of open space for the town. And if you've looked through REMA's report, there's a number of things that George Logan talks about in here in this 12 acres of land, but essentially I'm just going to run over it very quickly. And one of the things that he mentions is the fact that it's essentially what I guess I would call a northern hardwood forest. It hasn't been farmed. It hasn't been logged recently. He's got photographs back to the 30s. And there's some very large deciduous trees that are located on this property. So it's important probably, for the town in order to have a piece of land like this, because most areas, at least in the valley here in Connecticut, have all been farmed for the most part. Anything that was farmable has been farmed. Trees are typically smaller growth stuff, and this isn't like that. It's a piece of land that's got some substantial tree growth on it. And I think we have some photos. I'm just going to go a little bit further forward here. If you look at the lower photo here, here's a fairly large diameter oak tree with George's auger set up against the side of it. And I think the next photo shows a picture of a fairly large beech tree that whoever Zoe is visited in 1996 and put their initials in it. But again, you can see that these trees are probably, 70, 80 years old. They've been here a long time. So George's thought is that, this is an important feature of this particular piece of open space. He also noted that it's devoid of any invasive species, which we see a lot around wetland areas. This doesn't have that, which is a nice thing to have in terms of our open space. It's got a lot of diversity in terms of its plant life, wildlife, mammals, and avians, and so forth. And it creates a nice connection or habitat in a wildlife corridor. It connects up with the rest of the town's open space, as I said, but it's also got an Eversource transmission line that runs through it, provides access, provides a walking trail for the people who might want to use it, but also creates a nice wildlife corridor for, again, movement of mammals and animals and so forth to be able to go north and south through all the open space and onto another joining properties. That's always going to be there as long as that Eversource area is there. It's also got a small wetland area that's associated with Dry Brook, which is an intermittent water course, a tributary to the Scannick River. So and George basically sums it up in saying that it's an area that should be protected. It's a nice piece of open space, and it really belongs in this application as a portion of the open space to be conveyed to the town should this be approved. So I thought it was important to show you that as we move forward and take a look at what we're proposing today. So let me just switch screens for you. And what I've got here essentially is, if we look at the upper screen here, Rob Manarino's gone out and taken some photographs of the area area of the open space. And if you look at the upper photo, upper screen, we've got photo 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And these were taken essentially along the walking trail that's already there on this open space. And we can show you these photos so you can take a look at those. And let me just go to the next screen. This is photo 1. Again, shows the walking trail. And this is right where we will access from the turn on our extension of Maskell Road. So if the road heads northerly and then turns to the west, we would be accessing at this location with a grass walking path that's going to be 10 feet wide to gain access off our roadway and come up and be able to gain access to the open space at this location. As we move further to the south, Rob's got a photo here, again, showing the existing path or trail that's already there. And this would be used by anybody who wanted to walk onto the open space and walk northerly or southerly, or continue to go east if you wanted to go east and take a look at the forested area. Photo 3, again, access to the open space heading southerly. And as you can see, it's a very nice trail. It was recently improved by Eversource when they upgraded the transmission line in this particular location. Photo 4 is an area where, and I don't know if any of the commissioners have been up here. I have been up here, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years ago with the property owner. And there's quite a view off the portion of this piece of property. It's very high. We're told it's the second highest location in South Windsor. And you can see the entire Hartford skyline. This photo doesn't show it quite as well as we'd like it to. It's a little cloudy this day. But what you can see here is you can see all of the buildings downtown. You can see further northerly and westerly. You can see over towards the Yukon Medical Center. And I believe you get a little bit of view of the Cube-Light Tower. So it's very high, it's open, and it's really got quite a nice vista and view of south and southwest. And again, something that I think makes this piece of open space fairly valuable to the town of South Windsor. Photo 5 is the access down to the Maskell Road and heading back down to Fraser Fir. So again, this access comes all the way through the transmission line, and it's easily accessed from 3 different locations, and the most northerly one being the one we're proposing as part of this. 6 is, this is the Zen Tree Farm entrance, which for those of you who have driven down there, you know, there's a little parking area there where you can pull off the road. There's room to park some cars and again, walk the access of the trail up into the town's open space, which will connect up with the 12.3 acres that we're proposing as part of this subdivision. This is another piece of the GIS that I just marked up for you again to just kind of give you a feel for where we are. The piece to the north, which has got the X in it, is the piece that we're proposing. Again, it's 12.3 acres in size, and that would be what would be proposed as part of this subdivision. The other piece the town owns is southerly and easterly of our portion, and I'm thinking it came as part of Vintage Lane, Rob, is that correct? And that's 6.2 acres, and then the larger parcel, part of the original Maskell Road, Rob is saying, and the 19 acres, which is further to the south, was part of the Fraser Fir subdivision, the Zen Tree Farm, and that's just under 20 acres. So when you put all of this together, and we add it up for you, excuse me, we're looking at something that's just under 40 acres in size, so it's fairly sizable. And again, one of the more important features is we have the transmission line that runs through this that creates that wildlife corridor going both northerly and southerly from the open space that the town would eventually end up owning here. So I wanted to show you that because it gives you a larger overview of what we're really looking at in relation to the roadway network and Barber Hill off to the east and Abbey Road off to the west. And we've got a very significant north-south corridor for wildlife within this open space, which continues on because of the transmission line. So that said, let's go on to our, kind of large there. go on to our plan set, and I'm just going to kind of walk through this with you and show you what we have. As we talked about, Manorino Builders is the applicant here. The two properties involved are owned by Anita Roy, who actually lives right on Abbey Road. She's lived there for, I don't know, 50 years maybe, and has owned this land for a long, long time. And she's getting up in age and thinks it's time to sell it so she can leave something to her children. So I guess that's a wonderful thing for her to be able to have a nice asset like this that she can leave to some family members, hopefully, as she gets up in age. Kevin Charbonneau owns the other piece, which is the one existing lot right at the end of the cul-de-sac at the end of Masco Road, the current end. And the piece of open space that goes up to the east of it is also part of that lot, which is where this view is that I was showing you earlier in that photograph, where you can see Hartford and off to the west heading over towards Farmington and Simsbury. So this is your cover sheet, your introduction sheet that tells you what we have here within the plan set. This is the overall T-map, shows you where we are, Masco Road, the 13 lots we're proposing, and the neighborhood, the area limit map that shows who all our neighbors are and so forth in terms of names and addresses and property owners. The next sheet is a boundary survey showing all the property. And again, what's currently here. And again, you can see in the southerly portion of this, and let me go to my cursor here to show you that this is the existing temporary cul-de-sac that's currently ends where Masco Road ends now. And again, you can see that when this was done, the developers, Manorino Builders and town staff and the designer at that time left a 50-foot strip here that goes right into the Roy property to allow the extension of this road, which was certainly something that was planned for as they knew this land would eventually be developed and the road would be extended into this property and that there would be additional residential development. So that's essentially the boundary and existing condition. This is our re-subdivision plan, horizontal view of the new roadway. Again, the 13 lots that we're proposing, the open space off to the east, and connection again coming back out to Abbey Road. There is a small area of wetland that's located right here, and I'm showing my cursor on that now. And there's some crosshatch area there that's associated with it. So we did go before the Wetlands Commission, conservation, I guess it was back in, I don't remember now, December, January, it might have been December. I think it was December of 19. And we got an approval from them, we got a permit. The crosshatch area is an area of a proposed conservation easement, which I think was a condition. Okay, it was January, I guess Rob's telling me. And so there'll be a proposed conservation easement to preserve that wetland area. And we'll have a water quality basin that's going to be located on this, what we're calling, I think, parcel A, I'm sorry. Yeah, parcel A, which is about an acre in size. It's just to the west of this particular piece. So again, that's your resub plan. Meets all of your zoning requirements in terms of the open space subdivision. In fact, the average lot size here is about 23,000 square feet, which exceeds the minimum lot area, which is 20,000 in this particular application. The next page, again, is our overall site plan. This just happens to add the topography to it. You can see that the land here basically slopes from the east to the west, drains towards our proposed road and towards Abbey Road, which is basically the overland flow of the drainage here in the existing site. It is all wooded other than the transmission line itself, which a good portion of that has been cleared where we have the actual towers and the wires. But other than that, everything here that you're looking at is wooded. Our next sheet is our grading, erosion, and control plan, topographic plan, if you will. Here we're showing you proposed houses on each one of these lots, showing how they'd be graded. There's also some yard drains that are going to be shown to pick up water coming down between these lots and get it into the drainage system. And basically, we're showing that there's more than enough room here to develop these into single-family residential, fitting reasonably good-sized houses, two-car garages, obviously driveways, and again, what we would call, I guess, usable space behind the lots. They all have nice backyards and plenty of room for outdoor activities and that type of thing. The next plan in the set is here, our utility plan. So let's talk just a little bit about utilities, and all utility services are available for this. We've got sanitary sewer, we've got city water, we've got gas, obviously we've got electric and cable and so forth. And all of that will be part of this subdivision. All the utilities will be underground here. There's not going to be any holes with wires and so forth. It'll all be subsurface. There is a water quality basin, as I had mentioned to you earlier, which is located over here to the west. The storm drainage system from the road, this picks up the drainage at outlets into here and then outlets back down to Abbey Road. And this is going to provide the treatment for the water quality volume, which is required in the state regulation, as well as it also provides detention. And Dana has sized this for all the storm events, and we've got decreases in runoff for all the storm events 2 through 100, and meets the requirements that are in your regulations as well as in the state regulation. The next page is a plan and profile of the roadway, technical stuff, and we'd probably all get bored if I looked at it, tried to explain it to you. So I'm just going to kind of go over this at this point. Again, plan and profile. This happens to be a sightline plan out on Abbey Road, which we're going to talk about a little bit in a second. And then we've got a landscaping plan here. Terry Hahn over at LADA is our landscape architect here. She's put this together for you with a variety of different types of street trees, which are required in your subdivision regulations, and those are shown here. We've also added some screening along the rear of the lots here on Abbey Road, so to provide some additional screening to the area, which is not going to be developed, but it'll be a water quality basin. And she suggested some plants for us here to help screen the residents that live in front on Abbey Road itself. She's also added a little screening here between the back of what is lot number 5, to screen that from lot 6, and those happen to be Norway spruces. Again, those are shown here in this particular location. In terms of the street trees, I think we are all deciduous here. Let me just see if I can read this. Just bear with me here for 1 second. I'm having a COVID moment, I guess we might say. Yeah, we've got enough canopy trees, 40 to 50 feet mature. There are some ornamentals. The conifers are the screening trees. And I can't read it because I've got a picture of Frank in it. Okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry, Frank, I'm moving you around. You're blocking my screen here. But so the street trees are red maples, Acer rubrum. She's got some cherry, and it's an ornamental cherry. And we've got red oak, which I think is pretty prominent in the open space off to the east. And she's got another type of maple here as well that I'm not familiar with. But again, it's another street tree, autumn blaze, which that actually might be a sugar type maple, I think, but I'm not sure. I'm not a landscape architect, so I'm not going to pretend to go there. And Ben's probably going off the call, or he could help us with this. At any rate, we do have a plan that's been put together. I know it's been reviewed by staff, so it meets your regulation, maybe gone a little bit farther than that actually in terms of providing some screening. Yeah, and there are some arborvitae, as we said, along the backs of the lots over on Abbey Road. I'm sorry, yes. The open space access, which is located over here on the bend in the roadway, and there's actually going to be a little paved apron here that'll take us up to the grass walkway that gets us up into the open space. And we've provided some arborvitaes along the north side of lot 7, just so when people happen to be walking up here, there's a bit of a screen between that and the area where the house is going to be. The other thing that I guess I'll point out to you at this point is there's also on the backs of the lots here that front on the east of the roadway extension. And essentially we're talking lots 7 through 13. There's an easement. And the easement essentially is coincident with the westerly edge of the Eversource transmission line. And the reason that's there is the pathway or the roadway that Eversource recently improved is on that section of their easement. And we want that to be part of the open space. So in order to use that, we've created a little bit of an easement on the very rear portion of these lots to allow anybody who wants to come up and walk on the open space to be able to use this existing roadway, essentially, or path that's already there. And so, again, in going over this with town staff, this is one of the things that we talked about, and we want to be able to utilize that existing roadway that's already there. So we're creating a little easement right along the backs of these lots to be able to provide that for the folks to be able to access back and forth within the open space. We move a little further here. These are just detail sheets, again, all technical stuff. So let me back up a little bit and go back to the overall sheet here. Bear with me 1 minute. Oh. 1 second. I'm getting there. All right, we can look. Yeah, here's the subdivision plan. So there's a couple things we want to talk about here. In terms of the application and which is common in many subdivision applications, there's always some waivers that the applicant may be looking at or talking about. And in this particular case, sidewalks is one of the issues that we want to talk to you about. And we're looking for a waiver for sidewalks on one side of the road. Your regulations require walks on both sides. Masco Road, as it's currently developed, has a sidewalk on the easterly side. And we're proposing to continue that walk all the way along the east up to where the road turns westerly. And then we would cross and come over on the south side of the road and continue the walk all the way out to Abbey Road. So in order to do this, we would be looking for I guess what we call a partial waiver of sidewalks to allow the sidewalks to be on one side of the road, and that's part of the application. The other area that we're looking at is the access to the open space up here on the northerly side, just north of lot number 7. And let me see if we can make this a little bigger for you here. Okay, here we go. So this is an access that's approximately 171 feet long to get us up into the open. Well, actually, less the access. It's less than that. It's probably 150 feet more or less from where we leave our paved apron up to it. And it's 20 feet wide. And we're going to provide within that 12 feet of cleared area and a 10-foot wide, essentially lawn or grass walking trail to get us up onto the open space. Your regulations say that you require a 50-foot access, which that is available to this open space down off of Fraser Fur. In fact, there's more than 50, there's hundreds of feet of access available at that particular location, and that will be part of this open space should this be approved, and you'll be able to access from that location. There's also an access which I can just back up here a minute. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go back to an earlier view. And there's another access to this that's located right here off of Masco Road where you can get up and again get onto the open space. And this again was recently improved by Eversource. So there'd be access up here at the end that we're looking at, which we would be providing as part of this application, 20 feet wide. There's access here across the Eversource roadway, if you will. And then there's an access here that's hundreds of feet wide down off of Fraser Fir that has actually a little parking area for folks to be able to pull their cars off and get out and walk and get up onto the open space. So within this 38 acres that we have a southerly access, I'll call it a midway access, and a northerly access that would be part of this particular subdivision, should it be approved. But again, looking for a waiver on the access to the north. This subdivision is allowing us a 20-foot access where 50 feet is talked about in your regulations. So that's a pretty good overview of the plan set itself. And let me just go back again and get into just a different screen here. And I want to talk a little bit about the approval process. And in your application package, you should have a letter dated January 29th to Michelle, to the Director of Planning, that was written by Dana Steele, my partner, and it does a very good job of kind of walking you through this entire subdivision and laying it all out, kind of what I just did, but a little more concise, a little more detail. And one of the things that's important to note here, I think, is what it does do is in your regulations under section 8.4.b, there are 14 review criteria that are talked about in your rules. And we believe we meet all of this criteria. And Dana has gone through here and he's gone 1 through 14, and he's basically told you how we feel that we meet the criteria for approval under this section of the regulation. And I'm not gonna, it's over 2 pages long, I think, and I'm not gonna bore you. Actually, it's more than closer to 3 pages long. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. It's part of the application. You have it as part of your application package. And it does a very good job of explaining to you and putting forth to you what's required, what you're supposed to be looking at in terms of your regulations. We know you all know that, but it just gets it all on paper and gets it out there so we can all talk about it. Now, that said, the only other thing that I think I'm going to mention, and I'm sure I've forgotten some things, and if I have, Rob will kick me under the table a couple times and tell me what else I need to tell you. But one of the other things that we do have is we recently got some comments from your town staff, and we're in the process of addressing those, and we understand this hearing is going to be continued, and we will be before you again, and we were probably at that time going to formally go over all those comments. At this time, we have addressed, we believe, all of them except the one that we are working on. And our most recent conversation was actually yesterday with Michelle and with Jeff Will, and we're pretty comfortable with everything. And the one that's still out there is the access, or is the intersection at Abbey Road. And Jeff had brought forth the fact, and Dana as well, is that when we look at this intersection, and we had our traffic engineer, Teresa Schwartz from Tessera Engineering, she did a speed study for us. And we find that the 85th percentile speed out there was, I think, 45 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. And it requires a certain amount of sightline distance. And we're short of that by about 30 some odd feet, if I'm not mistaken. So we proposed a few things to town staff, in which they brought forth to police services and your traffic authority, and they took a look at that. And we did get a comment back, I guess about a week and a half ago, from the traffic authority indicating that we were proposing some traffic calming measures, which one of them is, one of these electronic speed indicators, which I know you've all seen. In fact, here in East Windsor, they just put up a few permanent ones, and they're solar powered, and they tell you your speed as you drive by, and you look at it and you go, oh, I'm going 45 miles an hour. I'm only supposed to be going 30. And quite frankly, they work. I'm very familiar with one We have a project going in Suffield, and they have one in front of Suffield Academy. Except I think the speed limit there might be 25. And every time I go by it, I'm always going too fast. And I look at it and go, geez, I got to slow down. You know, and you do. Well, anyway, they weren't interested in that. Rob was willing to give them that as well as some other signage. And they said, no, give us the sightline. So we talked with Jeff Doolittle, and we've got a plan in progress right now. And we're going to be able to do that. It's going to require a little bit of work at the intersection of this street and Abbey Road. But we will be able to provide the sightline, and we're in the process of putting that plan together right now. And we will be submitting that to Jeff with sufficient time before the next hearing date here. So he'll have an opportunity to review it, and maybe we'll go back and forth a little bit. But we're very comfortable that we're going to be able to provide the sightline that's required to give your staff, Jeff, and you the comfort level that you're going to need to hopefully move forward and give Manarino Builders the approval that they would like to be able to move forward with this project. So that's a basic overview of what the application is about. I didn't get into any of the real technical stuff. If we want to get into drainage or sanitary sewer or any of those things, Dane is here. He's obviously would be able to answer any of those questions, but I know it's more difficult in this format with being online and looking at screens and so forth. So I'm going to stop there, and if anybody has any questions, certainly we could try to answer them tonight, or moving forward could answer them. But I know your town staff has a report they want to give you, and I'm sure there's some folks from the public that would like to comment on this application. So that said, I'll just stop for now, and if anybody has any questions, we'll try to answer them for you at any given point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I will turn to our town staff, our town planner, Michelle Light.
Thank you. This is a request from Manarino Builders for a special exception to 7.14 and a site plan approval for an open space subdivision of 21.5 acres to create 12 new lots and the reconfiguration of an existing lot on property located R024 and 420 Abbey Road, 248 Maskell Road, and the 830 in the RR zones. Jay Ursary did a really good job kind of explaining the history of this. As the commission recalls, the applicant did come in front of you back in October of 2019 to discuss the layout and whether or not the commission wanted to see an open space subdivision, which was the consensus at that time. Subsequent to that, the applicant did come in front of you with a formal application to try to get a waiver to the cul-de-sac length to just cul-de-sac this road rather than bringing it out to Abbey Road. The commission denied that request in favor of the road pattern coming out to Abbey Road. So that is what is reflected in the plans in front of you tonight. Just point out a couple of the guidelines under our open space regulations for the objectives of open space. They include that we're promoting preservation guidelines in the various plans we have, being the Open Space Task Force Plan, the Plan on Conservation Development, the Recreation Plan. We preserve and maintain all or any part of existing forests, fields, pastures, and other land and agricultural use. We're considering the preservation, creation, connection of areas used for wildlife habitat, recreational corridors, and trails. We're looking for pedestrian access between properties, locate in areas where the land is contiguous to other open space properties, preserve scenic views and vistas, protect, preserve historic and prehistoric sites, and maintain the visual integrity of hilltops and heavily wooded areas. As indicated by the applicant, there are several of these goals that are being met with this application as it relates to the open space. The other criteria this application is subject to is our general criteria under section 8.7 for a special exception use. That is the document I think that was referred to, put together by Dana Steele, and it does cover all the 14 different criteria of the special exception. I won't read all those into the record, but we do have that document as part of the record tonight. Just so the commission knows, under a special exception application, the commission may impose additional conditions in accordance with these regulations to ensure that all the applicable criteria within a particular category are satisfied. We'd make a note that this is primarily in the RR zone as far as the lots are concerned. A minimum lot size in the RR zone on their open space subdivision is 20,000 square feet. These lots meet that, and I think they go up to about 24,000 square feet in change as far as the largest lot goes. Road configuration consists of the extension of Maskell Road to Abbey Road to the east, And it leaves leaving a road stub to the property to the north in the event that it was ever extended to the property in the north. With the extension of the road, the cul-de-sac wings of Maskell Road will be conveyed to the abutting property owners, so those will no longer be owned by the town. The open space requirement for this subdivision is 12.3 acres. The applicant is proposing that that will be in addition to the other open space in the area there, and will tie into the existing Zen Tree Farm open space and open space that was granted or that was obtained recently from the Kiltanny Heights back in when that subdivision was done, I believe in 2007. We do require that all this open space, if the commission does approve it, will have to be combined by deed so that the town will have it under one deed and one ownership. The applicant is proposing to leave a 20-foot access strip to the open space at the northerly end of Maskell Road with a small paved area for maintenance vehicle use. This was at the request of the Recreation Department that area be left there. The intent is to create public access through a 12-foot wide area with a 10-foot wide mobile path going up to the existing pathway under the Eversource easement. The plan does cause for a public easement over approximately 45 feet of the rear of the portion of lots 7 through 13. Again, I think through the pictures we saw, that's where the existing roadway for Eversource is. I just would note that those are on proposed lots to the rear of those lots. The subdivision regulations do require that we have an access strip of 50 feet, but the commission can waive that. Does allow for minor deviation if that's what they so choose. The Open Space Task Force reviewed this property and concluded that it would be favorable for town open space. The subdivision regulations that any future town open space be referred to the town council for their recommendation. And on February 3rd of this year, they forwarded a favorable recommendation to the commission that if this application were to be approved, they would accept that as town open space. I do have a resolution that I will put on the record of that meeting. Under an open space subdivision regulation, the commission has 3 options for open space ownership. That can either be town ownership, again, subject to town council approval, quasi-public land preservation organizations, or a homeowners association. The commission is able to dictate the location of the open space. If they're not satisfied with certain open space, they have the option of requesting different open space or in fee in lieu of open space. As indicated on the plans, there's a small area of regulated wetlands on the property. The wetlands approval was granted on January 15th of 2020, recommending the bonds of $20,000 for erosion sedimentation controls, $25,000 for the installation of stormwater structures, a bond in the amount of $5,000 for plantings within the basin to be held for 3 years. Other approval conditions included a conservation easement being required over the wetland area, as well as a notice to be placed on the deeds for lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 that indicates any additional tree clearing from what is shown on the approved plan would require additional approvals. Sidewalks are shown on the eastern side of Maskell Road extension and then connecting to Abbey Road. So they will connect all the way down. They are requesting a waiver to have the sidewalks on one side of the street. We do have street trees shown on both sides of all streets within the street tree easement. The landscape plan prepared by a landscape architect as required shows a large combination of large canopy trees, commoner maples, and flowering trees along the street frontage. In addition, there's some landscaping trees added along the northwesterly, along the open space access easement, as well as along the westerly property boundary adjacent to the existing houses on Abbey Road. The site will be serviced by public water and sewer. Water Pollution Control Authority approval is required. The traffic report did indicate the existing roadway network has the capacity to accept the proposed traffic with no level of service reductions. Sightlines looking to the north do not meet the current sightline distance needed for the 85th percentile traffic speed, and the developer is proposed to make road improvements in Abbey Road to correct this sightline. The street tree warden has requested that the street tree easement be limited to 10 feet, and I think the revised plans do reflect that easement. If the open space is accepted as proposed, staff requests that the open space permanent metal markers for delineating boundaries of town open space be installed. I do have one other comment just to add to the record from Ray Favreau. He had made some comments early on in the open space with the applicant has addressed, but he did want to indicate that he thought it was ideal open space as it directly abuts existing town open space acreage with a potential benefit to the public. It takes the greatest advantage of the existing trail by Eversource power lines And he did have the recommendation that these two pathways connect from this open space into the other existing open space, and that does in fact do that. That's some of the staff comments we have. As we talked about, we would recommend keeping the public hearing open, so any of the public that may just be hearing this application for the first time would have an opportunity to comment at the next hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll turn to our town engineer, Jeff Doolittle.
Thank you. Just to elaborate a little bit. So I asked that there be a note on the plans that the property lines, this subdivision, particularly on the northwest and south sides where it abuts existing lots, be staked out prior to the start of the work. So it's clear where everybody's property lines are. As Michelle said, the applicant's working on a grading plan for the intersection for Abbey Road to allow the sight line to meet the requirement for the 85th percentile speed. I also asked them to widen the radius where the proposed road comes out on Abbey Road, and they're working on those two things together. In addition, I asked the applicant to look at the drainage on Abbey Road. They're tying into an existing drainage system, which was old. I asked them to do an inspection of that drainage system, and we will work with them to make any repairs that are needed to that drainage system. The streetlight number and type for this subdivision, as all, will be determined based on discussions between the town, police, and Eversource. What else? Ask them to show a dimension plan with the profile for the proposed road. They're going to do a little bit more work on the drainage analysis for the proposed road, so we can make sure that it's picking up all the water before it comes down to Abbey Road. There's a little bit of a break in the grade by where the drainage goes into the proposed water quality basin. I want to make sure that's working properly. And WPCA review and approval is required for the subdivision. It will be served by town sewer, public water, and all details need to conform to the town of South Windsor standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm just wondering how many people we have looking to participate.
Right now, we have no one asking to speak.
Okay, then at this time, I think it's a good time to read a few records or a few letters into the record. With the Secretary, Commissioner Bonzani, I believe you have a few letters.
Yeah, we have 4 letters. I'm going to read 2, and then Stephanie's going to read 2, if that's okay.
Commissioner
All right, the first
Dexter?
one, Stephanie Dexter, yep.
Okay, thank you.
You muted yourself.
There
You
you
hear me
go.
now?
Yep.
Can we can hear you.
Okay. This was received January 17, 2020. My name is Solange Appleton. My husband Benjamin and I, this is a handwritten letter, have notice for changes to be made behind our house, 404 Abbey Road. Plans for new roads for buses, new homes to be built, and catch basin installed behind our home, established wetlands. We would like small trees installed between our property line and catch basin. Maybe Jeff Folger can suggest best type for our area. Will area be treated for mosquitoes? And wetland, she put wetland in parentheses. Question, I read where power lines contribute to cancer. Our town has many power lines and it appears to ruin the beauty that once was the reason to move to South Windsor. Please honor our request for trees. Solange Appleton. That's the first one. The second one is, Dear Planning and Zoning Commission, RE proposal Mandarino Builders to build 12 homes on approximately 21.5 acres on Abbey Road and Masco Road and build a new road connecting Abbey and Masco. The balance of homes and land are features that make a town desirable. South Windsor has had a great amount of new building these past few years, and there is not much open land left. This proposal will have a great impact on our already crowded school system. It will create more traffic on Abbey Road, which has become a very busy road with cars traveling way over the speed limit. Extending Masco Road to Abbey will create another exit route for vandals in the area. There is so much wildlife in this acreage. Where will they go? We already have a problem with coyotes. We will lose birds that help pollinate and eat insects such as mosquitoes and beetles. The loss of trees is harmful to the ecosystem. Once destroyed, nature's beauty will be lost forever. Many years ago, the town came together to oppose the building of a nuclear waste site on this land, and we learned that there are many natural aquifers throughout the property. Even with the proposed stormwater basin, existing wells may be affected. We have lived here for over 45 years and have seen our town grow to a great diverse community and an example for other towns to follow. It seems the main reason for building these houses is for profitability and not a community need. Please consider our reasons to oppose this building proposal. We should try to save the few timeless parcels of land that we have left for future generations to appreciate. Thank you for considering our opposition. Yours truly, Edward and Shirley Michalski, 416 Abbey Road, South Windsor, Connecticut. And then Stephanie has a couple.
We'll turn to Commissioner Dexter.
Thank you. The next email is from Kelly Mile. She lives at 165 Garnett Lane. I'm writing to share my opposition to the application for a subdivision of single-family homes off of 420 Abbey Road. The addition of the Fraser Fur development since I moved to my home on Garnett Lane in 2008 is to increase traffic, decrease safety for children, specifically on Garnett Lane and Old Farms Road. Removal of the bump on Abbey Road after a tragic death was an attempt at increasing safety, but Abbey Road is an unsafe racetrack. A development will only make these 3 streets more dangerous. We have lost a significant amount of area for wildlife in this area, and this takes away from the quality of our community. With the addition of the ghastly homes in South Windsor Estates, there has been an increase in wild animals without safe places to nest. I also certainly miss the sunrise from Graham Road on my way to work, which, by the way, takes longer due to increased traffic throughout South Windsor. Now we are in the midst of a pandemic. The Board of Ed cannot plan for all students to safely return to school. It will take many years to recover for our neediest learners. My daughter finished her 2nd grade year with 24 students in her class. At some point, enough is enough. Why on earth would we consider adding to our school enrollment with new homes? I like trees near my home. I like safe roads without people cutting through my neighborhood at ridiculous rates of speed while my children ride their bikes. I like schools that are not bursting at the seams, that can meet the needs of the students currently enrolled. I do not believe it is possible to have these things in South Windsor any longer. And the last letter is from Jennifer Mutson. She lives at 394 Abbey Road. I am aware the plot of land behind my house is currently being reviewed to approve 13 houses and a new access road built from Abbey. I and my neighbors do not agree with this build and are concerned of the future damage that will occur once approved. Number 1, within the last few weeks, we have noticed a bald eagle that has taken residence within the woods behind my house. We already have issues with coyotes, fisher cats, and bobcats roaming residential neighborhoods. By taking this plot of land away, it will only increase the sightings and danger of these predatory animals nearing our homes and children. In addition to taking away the homes of protected animals, let South Windsor be known for protecting wildlife and caring for its residents instead of selling out to allow more empty houses to be built. Number 2, per the proposed plan, there appears to be a steep ditch that is supposed to collect water. This ditch is closer to our homes that have been here for decades versus the newer homes that are being created. West Nile virus is a serious concern that plagues this town last summer, I should say. This ditch will result in a breeding ground for mosquitoes. There are children and elderly who live in this neighborhood who are susceptible for getting sick. What will the town/builder do to ensure after every rainfall, mosquitoes are not breeding due to this building plan. Number 3, at this time, there's a huge tree on that land that has been damaging my fence. This tree is covered in poison sumac and towers over my shed. As this tree is not on my property, how will the town/builder safely take care of this tree and fix my fence? Number 4, Abbey Road is a safe, slow road. If another road is being built, then we need children at play signs in addition to speed bumps to ensure these trucks are not speeding down our street, in addition to the new traffic this new street will create. Safety to the children and the many residents who walk needs to be priority number 1. And the last bullet, if in fact this construction is going to be approved without the residents' approval, due to COVID, the builder should have set hours and days when they can work and make noise, not on the weekends and only on the weekdays no later than 5 p.m. We all live here, and 13 crammed houses close to one another seems to appear like the houses crammed together in Hartford and other similar cities. School is about to start, and many of the children are already stressed about what this new school year is going to look like. To add disruptive noise only adds to the stress. I am closing this email with requesting the town to think of its current residents and not for their own pockets. This town has many houses for sale. How long will these new homes sit empty for sale? Please protect these lands instead and deny the request to build. Jennifer Musson.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll turn back to our IT and see if there is anybody waiting on the phone lines that would like to speak.
Yes, we have 2 people who'd like to speak.
Okay. Can we let one of them in?
Yes, letting them in now.
Okay. Hi, would you like to give us some
Hello,
input?
can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Adam Rich from 426 Abbey Road.
Okay.
I want to first thank the commission for holding this meeting during WebEx, via WebEx. And for those of you that are there in person, thank you for taking that sacrifice for us, and for continuing to operate this commission in the uncertainty of COVID. It's very honorable of you to continue to perform your public duties. I'm grateful that the commission is going to extend this hearing, particularly because quite a few things, visual aspects of J.R. Russo's presentation were referenced that the public didn't get to see. Some of what we have said, or what I will say, may be clarified by being able to have access to those parts of the presentation, in particular the pictures, the plans. Much of that was not included in what we received ahead of time. The presentation given by J.R. Russo treated this development as if it's a given. I would request the commissioners do not think that way. They are requesting an exception. The town does not have to approve. The town's goals will be better met by not developing this land. I'm asking the commission to not approve this exception and to send a clear message that alternative uses for this land be explored. I've gone through some of the considerations listed in the pre-reading material and made comments to them. The first, consideration number 1, is that to grant this exception, the plan must preserve and maintain all or part of any existing forest and maintain the visual integrity of heavily wooded areas. The entire 22 acres in question here is forested at this time. Just the same the 12 acres the 11 acres that's going to be open space and the 11 acres that's going to be cleared are of the same quality. This plan proposes the clear cutting of half of it. The visual integrity of the forest cannot be maintained this way. You really should see this forest from the north. It is absolutely beautiful. If you want to come over to our house for a barbecue, you can, and you can have a beautiful view of it. Consideration number 2, the application has met the requirements of the zoning regulations. I understand this is not a zoning change request. My family and I were at that hearing where all of us spoke last year. But we're here because that zoning change was denied. Effectively, this plan gets us to the same place. Small lots with many houses built in one area, and the area that's closer to the power lines before was just going to be unused. Now the developer is trying to get around it and effect a zoning change by handing this over to the town. Is the commission okay with approving effectively what they denied last year? Consideration number 3, minimal, if any, adverse environmental impacts are created. I believe that clear cutting of 12 acres about of mature forest is not minimal adverse environmental impact. The land that will be clear cutted as part of this plan has all the attributes listed by REMA Ecological Services for the open space land. High quality oak, hickory, and black birch, at least 100 years old, if not more, never been tilled, devoid of invasive plant species, floristic diversity, high wildlife habitat value. The resident that just spoke about the bald eagle, I think that is absolutely amazing that we have a bald eagle in our area, and I cannot wait to see it. The recommendation is that the proposed open space would be excellent open space. The land Mannarino wants to clear cut is just as high quality. If the commission's goal is to have more homes in South Windsor, why can't we build on land that is not pristine forest? And I have to question whether the commission's goal is even to build more homes in South Windsor. Consideration number 4, no traffic or other hazards will be created. At least 1,000 feet of road will be created directly south of our home, about 400 of which runs parallel to our driveway, where our children play, ride bikes, walk to the bus, do all sorts of things. That road will be a blind road coming to meet Abby, even after the road is raised. Additionally, we have trees along our driveway in between what would be the new road and our driveway that are all somewhere between 75 and 150 years old. And we will not permit any of those trees to be removed from our property or damaged or trimmed in any way. I do not agree with the findings of the study that the Mannarino developers paid for, and I'd like to see an additional traffic study done and paid for by the residents, which I am happy to support. Consideration number 5, the surrounding property values will be
Did we lose you, Adam?
Still on the air.
Adam?
I'm trying to get him back.
Okay.
Looks like he just disappeared.
Maybe he's going to try to call back in. He's not on it any longer, Chairman.
Okay. We'll give him just a little bit.
Number though.
Well, no, he's not talking. Okay, the number.
Yeah, we figure out the people who want to speak.
Okay. We do have 3 other people that want to speak at this time if you want us to.
Okay, we'll move on to the next person and we'll give Adam a chance when he gets back on.
Okay.
Okay.
Person in now.
Okay. Good evening. Would you like to participate in our public hearing?
Yes, thank you very much for having us.
Could you please introduce yourself?
This is Jack and Tracy Liner. We live at 187 Maskell Road.
Okay.
We just wanted to say that when we built our home here, Mannarino Builders did a beautiful job of maintaining the integrity of the area. We have a beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood. We're not in the least bit worried about 12 houses at the end of our cul-de-sac. When we built our home, we knew that that was a temporary cul-de-sac. And we took the initial cul-de-sac away from the other residents of Maskell Road, and I don't think that any of them are unhappy with us being here. The there's a lot of families on the road. They respect the road and the children at play. There's no crazy people speeding through our properties. We're excited about the end. We like to go take our dog down the end of the road and go up to the walk through the Eversource property, and we're happy that there's going to be some open land provided. We have the utmost confidence in the developers that they're going to take very good care of our neighborhood and the surrounding people and neighbors that live there. And don't at all think that 12 new homes is a detriment. I think it's just a great inclusion to our existing beautiful neighborhood. So appreciate your time, and we're thank you for having this hearing and in this virtual crazy space that we're in. So thank you so much for hearing us.
Okay, thank you very much for participating. Could we let the next person in, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Would you like to participate in our public hearing?
Hello?
Yes, good evening. Would you like to participate in our public hearing? Are you hearing me okay? Hello?
Hello? Yes.
Yes.
Are you ready for? Yes. My
Yes,
name
we're
is
looking
Steve
for your
Strait.
input.
My name is Steve Strait. I live at 427 Abbey Road. I would like to speak against the proposed development. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I would like to speak against the proposed development. First, I wish to protest that this hearing is being held virtually. I realize this was not the Commission's choice at all and that the developer has forced this hearing. I feel the impact of this construction would have on dozens of families calls for an in-person hearing, and that the developer should have withdrawn his application until after the pandemic is passed. Many of those impacted are senior citizens, some in their 80s, who have been told to stay home to be safe. I can assure you that if this were in person and safe, the hearing room would be filled tonight with those against the plan. Second, I would like to note that a few years ago, or maybe more recently, the Commission rejected a very similar plan for that area, unanimously, as I recall. The last words by the Commission chair before the vote were, "So no one in this neighborhood supports this plan." That was true then and is predominantly true now. I have had 6 families contact me to say that they agreed with the protest against this development. In the town's plan of conservation and development, the top sorry by the residents, the things they were most sorry about, was a feeling of urgency that land is disappearing. Under community character, representative quotes cited in the report included, "We need to keep the small town look and feel." Also, "I'd like to see South Windsor keep its traditional country atmosphere." And also, "I moved to South Windsor because of its rural feel and existing agricultural activities. My wife and I chose South Windsor 27 years ago for those reasons as well." Now, woods and fields are disappearing even faster. And for what? Do we want to fill every existing field and woodland? Do we want to turn South Windsor into Manchester and then into East Hartford? The POCD also says we should, quote, "discourage development that would block scenic views from public vantage points," end quote. These beautiful woods would not only be blocked, they would be destroyed. How is that consistent with that goal? Number 11 in the open space objective specifically states that everything should be done, quote, "to preserve forest land and woodland." This does the opposite. Also, although it doesn't come up on any of the builder's plans because it is not technically wetlands, there is a vernal brook right where the new road to Abbey would be every year. In wetter years than this, that brook has run from March into July, and it's absolutely gorgeous. That too would be destroyed. Also in the POCD, the very first recommendation under residential development is A, protect established neighborhoods. No houses have been built on Maskell Road for more than 10 years. That is an established neighborhood, tranquil and charming as it is now. The developer seems to claim that the new subdivision is inevitable, but that is just simply not the case and not worth ruining an established neighborhood. The developer claims that the project will protect and maintain existing densities and patterns, which is strategy A1 in POCD. But if you look closely at the plan, it doesn't. While the eastern side of the development, lots 7 through 12, appear to match the size of the existing lots on Maskell, the west side simply does not. Almost all of Maskell now has frontage of 120 feet or more. The closest houses on Abbey have frontage of 125, 150, and 160 feet. Yet on that west side, the houses are squished in at only 90 feet of frontage. That is a huge difference in density. 4 of the 6 lots on that site are barely 20,000 square feet, the minimum allowable. Typical lots on Maskell are far larger, with several over 30,000. We can see the developers trying to squeeze as many lots as possible into that side, rather than fit the size and character of the other lots on Maskell. Lot number 6, for example, is a weird shape jimmied in there that clearly should be the back of lots 4 and 5 and not exist at all. The plan should not be approved unless the number of lots on that side is reduced to just 4 or a comfortable 3 to suit the street as it is now. Now we know that the police do not like the sight lines on Abbey at the proposed new intersection and are demanding that Abbey Road be reconstructed to raise the level of the street at that point. That is a huge, major, and unnecessary reconstruction that could be eliminated if the proposal were defeated. Indeed, flattening Abbey Road at that point would increase the average speed, something the town has been very concerned about. Cars fly by as it is. Your 80th percentile would increase in speed. The Town Plan of Conservation and Development specifically says that we should, quote, protect public health, well-being, and our natural environment, end quote. It's a beautiful phrase. Building 12 houses and a new road in the middle of a pandemic with people trapped in their houses during potentially 90 hours a week of construction does not protect public health and well-being. Destroying hundreds of trees and woodlands that houses dozens of animal species does not exactly protect our natural environment. As I have studied the maps, I would suggest a better idea for the land, which was actually almost proposed by the developer tonight. Linking the 21 acres of this land with the 12 acres of open space on Maskell would make a very nice park of 33 acres with the same walking trails throughout the woodlands. Now, according to the developer, the area south of that could be added, and you would have a beautiful park of 52 acres with greenway leading all the way to the tree farm. We could call it the Anita J. Roy Park. The town might look into purchasing this, or I happen to know the residents on Maskell and Abbey would be eager to purchase it at a fair market price and set it aside for nature. Please, for the good of the neighborhood and wildlife in the area, reject this proposal.
Thank you very much for your input. Could I get your address one more time, please? Or maybe not.
Chairman, there was Stephen Strait at 420 Abbey Road.
420. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Could we let the next person in, please?
Letting them in now.
It was 427, I apologize.
Okay.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello,
Would
this
you like
is
to?
Adam Rich again.
Hey, Adam,
Yes.
how are you?
I got cut off. I got cut off due to technical issues before. The
Okay.
the WebEx line didn't like what I had to say and hung up on me.
We apologize for that.
Yeah, so this is Adam Rich at 426 Abbey Road. That was Stephen at 427 Abbey Road, across the street from us. I have quite a few points in what I prepared that are almost identical to what Stephen said, so I'll focus on those ones that are unique. But I do want the commission to know that I second everything he said.
Okay.
One of the considerations the commission is asked to make is that the surrounding property values will be conserved. The property values in this area and all of South Windsor are mostly flat over the last decade because of high and increasing supply. If supply continues to increase, the prices will go down. But even keeping prices steady is not enough. They have to keep pace with inflation, which they have not been. The supporting documents argue that the value of the new homes will be equivalent to values of new homes in the area, and say very little in their defense of what will happen to the existing homes property values, but I argue they would go down. The general welfare of the community will be served is the next consideration. I do not believe that South Windsor needs more new construction, but even if the commission did believe that South Windsor needs new construction, there are other areas in which to do it. Definitely not clear cutting when there are other places to build. The welfare would be better served by increasing demand for existing homes. The community wants to keep this forest. What general welfare does this new construction bring? More open space under power lines, end quote, is not a good enough answer, especially when that land is not desirable to the developer anyway, and they're only giving it to effect a zoning change. Consideration number 7, there is a balance between neighborhood acceptance and community needs. We own the land, my wife and I, to the north of the proposed development, about over 1,000 feet of frontage. This will turn our property into a corner lot, which we never intended it to be. I don't accept that. Our neighbors don't accept the new road. And I hope that the weight of our opinions, my wife and I, my wife will be hopefully speaking soon, are given weight commensurate with the impact to us. Consideration number 8. Is the commission allowed to consider the additional Zen open space in approving this lot? If so, then it would make a beautiful open space, but at the cost of clearing 12 acres of just as pristine forest. Another consideration that needs to be made by the commission is that the architectural design is aesthetically pleasing and blends well into the surrounding area. I think Steve covered this very well when he said it would be more architecturally pleasing if the lots were of larger size. I also want to note on the trees in the plan, which mentions street trees within a street tree easement, not having the benefit of being able to see all the documents that J.R. Rousseau went over. I can't say exactly that I understand what that means, but I'd like to reiterate that there are already 1,000 feet of very old trees on our property, which would most likely have to be removed or damaged if a road was put in, and that is not something we will permit. That is all that I want to add. I urge the commission to not approve this exception request.
Okay, thank you very much for your input, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, could we let the next person in, please?
Letting them in now.
Okay.
Hello, this is Marion Macarone. I am a 27-year resident of the town of South Windsor. I live at 427 Abbey Road, directly across from the planned development. I have many objections to this proposal. Even though some open space will be preserved, nothing was mentioned about an equal amount that will be destroyed. The parcel of land that is being eyed for development and rich habitat for trees, birds, wildlife, water, and the very earth. You will be killing a whole ecosystem, and in a time of intense climate change, this is not only ill-advised, but morally reprehensible. Wild animals, particularly coyotes, are being forced out, and we will see them in our yards, and they will threaten the safety of small children and pets. The land apparently holds no value to one that is out of touch with nature, other than short-term monetary gain for unnecessary development. In addition to the destruction of nature, you will be destroying a beautiful, serene neighborhood. My house has been here since the early 19th century and has owned other houses through the years while preserving the feel of a close-knit community. In fact, we know all our neighbors by name and lovingly refer to the neighborhood as the Hamlet. If the plan is approved, the new road extending Maxwell onto Abbey will not only
Know that. We're the Hamlet.
and bury a beautiful stream, but will shine headlights directly into my living room. Also, contamination of the existing underground aquifer.
Oh. I think other people were in. We need to have her call back.
Oh, you lost her, huh?
Yes, there was other people who were still connected. That's why we had that other person speak. So if she can hear us, can you please call us back and we will let you back in?
Okay, apologize to,
We have one other person to speak.
okay. If you could let him in, please.
Okay.
Good evening. Would you like to participate in our public hearing?
I would love to participate. I am Monica Rich, Adam Rich's beautiful and lovely wife, and I echo all the things that he shared, and I'm really hoping that Marion can get back on here, and I'd like to hear more of what she has to say. I agree with everything that my neighbors have said before about our area, and I'm not going to repeat some of the things that I had planned to say that they have already stated. In reviewing the guidelines for this exception, I noticed that a few things we haven't talked about. Well, Adam mentioned the balance between neighborhood acceptance and community needs, but also under the design guidelines, it states that the development should be laid out to protect and preserve the open space, but also to protect adjoining landowners, which we are, and that the commission is also has to consider the degree of the development's impact on immediate abutters and the surrounding neighborhood, which we are. Adam shared a lot of our concerns. My biggest one is the road along our driveway. Our driveway is about 350 feet long, and with the new proposed road would run very close and directly parallel to that portion of my driveway. This is the driveway at the end of which my elementary school children wait for their bus. It's the driveway that my teenage children are learning how to exit out of in the vehicle, and I really have a lot of concerns about not only the sight lines that I know the police have mentioned, but also just the nature of this traffic flow here. The fastest way down to Graham or Griffin is to go down Robert, which means out of that new road, drivers would be turning right directly into our driveway, or directly past our driveway. And I'm concerned that as they do so, they will be so concerned with traffic coming from the left that they will not see my children either there at the end of the driveway or exiting the driveway in their vehicles. I feel like I mean, I could go on about the nature of this area. My neighbors have already said, and my husband has said it's beautiful and pristine. In Ed's letter, he didn't mention that in the 45 years of him living there, his property has been bordered on the north by a road, and that's it. This new development would make the north side of the road the north side of a road, the east side a drainage ditch, and then of course the east or the west side also Abbey Road. So he'd have one area of the perimeter of his property that is not either abutted by a drainage ditch or a road, which seems unfair to him and his property. A quick search, I just did a very quick search on realtor.com and it shows that there are currently 118 homes on the market for sale in South Windsor, 118 in our town. Clearly, there is not a shortage of available existing housing, but there is shortage of undeveloped land. Just in the minutes I've thought about it, I can name the Toll Brothers estates, quote unquote, on Graham Road, the Coca-Cola sales center that was built on Ellington Road, the condominium development, that massive one on Oakland, just to name a few. So to clear cut 12 acres of land, build a new road, reconstruct an existing road, while drastically altering the appearance and feel of our neighborhood and our property lines, all to build 12 unnecessary houses seems extremely excessive. And I know it's been mentioned before too, that our brand new elementary school, which hasn't even opened yet, is already at capacity. And so adding, 12 or 13 families, which these houses would inevitably draw, is just going to add to the burden our schools are already facing. And I just echo everyone else that I strongly, strongly discourage the approval of this development. That's all I have to say.
Okay, well, thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.
We think we have the young lady back.
Okay, let's give it a shot. Good evening. Would you like to participate in our public hearing?
Yes, this is Marion Macaron again. I was cut off earlier.
Marion, we apologize for that.
Well, thank you. I was describing our neighborhood as we call it lovingly the Hamlet. If this plan is approved, the new road will not only sacrifice all the old growth trees and bury a beautiful stream, but it will shine headlights directly into my living room. Also, contamination of the existing underground aquifers is a definite possibility and extremely problematic because most homes in this area have wells. The character of the town is being monetized and commercialized. Some of these things people have already said, but I think it bears repeating that Abbey Road is already a speedway, and leveling the road for improved sight lines will only encourage faster speeds. Even though the posted speed limit is 25 miles an hour along this stretch, the recent study done confirmed speeds far in excess of that, and I can attest to that. I don't need to remind you of the tragic death on Abbey Road caused by excessive speed. As Monica just mentioned, there are 118 homes for sale in South Windsor. Building more family homes will strain the public schools, as she said, which are already dealing with new guidelines during the pandemic. It seems greed over need is what is being valued here. Sadly, this proposal might be within the bounds of what is acceptable by my town's planning and zoning regulations. I will note here that the developer is not a resident of my town. It seems that a few individuals' profit is valued more than the best interests of dozens of families who object to this development and will suffer because of it. As stated in South Windsor's overall plan of conservation and development, as other people have stated, our town aspires to, quote, protect public health, well-being, and our natural environment. I don't believe this proposed development does that. In fact, it does the exact opposite. I would expect that the Planning and Zoning Commission is duty-bound to follow their own stated strategies for development. I love my town and I am proud to live here, but that pride will be lessened if this proposal is granted. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for participating in this discussion.
One more.
We do have one more.
Okay, thank you.
Letting them in now.
Okay. Good evening. Would you like to participate in our public hearing?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you
Great.
tell us who you are?
Yes. Hi, absolutely. Yes. My name is Kit Bonin and I live at 200 Maskell Road. Yes, I live in a Manorino home, which I love, but I certainly don't think we need more here. I am truly inspired by what some of my neighbors who I don't know, but I would love to get to know, said about our neighborhood and the reasons for not pursuing this project. Adam Rich, Stephen Strait, several other neighbors. So I too oppose this development and echo their concerns. My wife, 2 boys, and I have been here for almost 7 years, and we have all enjoyed the quiet road with the cul-de-sac and especially the incredible wildlife and plant life we see daily. Hawks, bobcats, coyotes, owls, fishers. I mean, it's incredible. And it's in a suburban area to be exposed to that daily. So addition of accessible open space is wonderful, but destruction of old forest with the addition of new homes is not acceptable. When we moved here, we chose this neighborhood because of the cul-de-sac. Well, one of the reasons, which we assumed would remain and provide a safe environment for our kids and those of the neighborhood and into the future. So I really, again, I especially feel for my neighborhoods that will be more directly affected, and I hope that this proposal is rejected. Thank you.
Thank you very much for participating in our public hearing. Do we have any other members of the public?
There is no one else who wants to speak.
Not at this time.
Okay, then at this time, and I just want to make the commissioners aware, we got about another 15 or 20 minutes. So I would ask commissioners if there is anything else or anything they would like to say tonight that might require the developer or applicant to bring back further information for our next public hearing. So at this time, I will turn to commissioners. I'll start with Commissioner Bernstein.
I have nothing, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Bonzani.
No, I have nothing at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay, whoops. Give me just a minute here. We have Commissioner Dexter.
Well, I have a question for Michelle. Michelle, I think I ask this every time. Could you explain to us exactly what the special exception is for this application?
Okay, so you have two different types of subdivision developments that can happen in town. You have a conventional subdivision, which essentially is designing lots to meet the bulk requirements that you have in your zone, or you do allow subdivisions by special exception to be open space subdivisions.
Okay.
So the open space component of it is the special exception part of it.
Okay.
This property could be developed as a conventional subdivision, which is what the basis of the number of units that can be proposed in an open space subdivision. So if you recall, when you reviewed this back in October, you were shown two different development scenarios. One that was the conventional subdivision, which a developer has a right to develop, and one was an open space subdivision, which in turn requires 50% of the land to go into an open space category, and the developer gets to develop on smaller lot sizes.
Okay. So just to summarize, because a landowner has a right to sell their land, we as a commission led the developer to believe that open space subdivision was the preferred method, and that requires this special exception.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Commissioner Dexter? Okay, I'll turn to Commissioner Flagg.
Yeah, I don't quite agree with the whole of that last remark. When we met last time on this, it's true that there was two different ways we could go on this, but one of the major things that we talked about, and I think it made us decide to go through it with this way, was that cul-de-sac would have been way too long and unsafe for fire vehicles and other public safety vehicles and so on to do. And so I believe that that's an equation that we looked at for a long time. And that's one of the main reasons why we chose to put in that extension down to Abbey Road. Other than that, I'd rather wait until the next time we talk about this.
Okay, for any further questions, comments? Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Bill. I'll turn to Commissioner McGuire, please.
You're muted.
Need to unmute yourself.
The things we
Sorry.
ask, right?
I'll get the hang of this eventually. I just wanted to clarify something that you said, Michelle, and I apologize because it's probably right here in the regulations, but you just said 50% open space and smaller lots. That's what is allowed in the special exception for open space. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And is that written in stone, though? That if you are doing the 50% open space, then automatically it is smaller lots?
Well, that's what you have as a regulation. That, I mean, the developer can choose to go larger, but you have a minimum lot size that's required, which is 20,000 square feet in your rural residential zone. That's kind of the trade-off. You get open space in return, you allow lots on smaller developments.
Right. I understand. Okay. Thank you. That was my only question for now, Bert.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wagner.
Yeah, I have 6 or 7 questions, but I think only 2 of them need to be thought about. First of all, there's mention of a bald eagle. Now, I didn't hear them mention that there's a bald eagle nest in there because those things are huge. They tend to be very high. I would just like somebody to confirm that there's no bald eagle nest anywhere on this property, especially where the houses are going. And that doesn't have to be answered tonight. The second question is, I really didn't understand the changes proposed for Abbey Road. But the thought occurred to me that we could put a 3-way stop sign at this new intersection, and I'd like somebody to look at that possibility for the next part of the public hearing. That's it.
Awesome, Steve. Okay.
Maybe I could just tee up one other thing. There's a change to the power line easement that's occurring to make it accessible basically for recreational use. However, that easement actually goes up, the power line easement goes all the way up into Mr. Rich and Mr. and Mrs. Rich's property on 426. So we would have to be sure that there's some way to protect their right not to have that section of the power line easement turn into some sort of recreational use. So actually have that answered the next time as well.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I've got a couple quick questions. The detention area, is that a wet or dry bottom?
It is a wet bottom detention basin.
And
it's designed by the developer and approved by wetlands.
okay, and how deep is that water going to be? I'm just curious.
It shows a standing pool of about 4 feet. However, it will be relatively narrow.
Okay, thank you. Does the applicant have any issue providing for the trees that were requested behind, I believe it was 404 Abbey Road? The Solange Appleton request? Or did you have a chance to review that already?
Dave, that's a question to you.
I'm not hearing any response.
Again, Jay Erstreet here for the applicant. And I believe the area we're talking about at 404 are the houses along Abbey Road that back up to the detention basin. Bart, is that what you're talking about?
I am not sure. I didn't review the map on it.
Property.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a note. Yeah, so we are proposing additional plantings in that area, and because it's wooded, the backs of the lots are wooded, and we're also leaving a wooded strip along there. What we had proposed to do is when we were going through conservation and wetlands, and Jeff Folger was involved, he's your environmental planner, as you know, he suggested when we do these additional plantings that they be field located. So we would be going in the field with Jeff as our consultant and staff member to provide additional plantings along the backs of those lots. And these are what were proposed by our landscape architect. And it's basically, conifers, screening, 5 to 8 footers to provide the screening. And the specific locations along the back of that, and I've got it back up on the screen here now so you can see it. I hope. Bear with me for a minute on here, I'm moving it around. So if we look at the cursor, we're talking about that additional planting along this area, and we'll actually be planting within the existing wood line, if you will. So Jeff felt it was necessary for him to go out with the developer and pick the spots where these trees made the most sense, because they need to get a little bit of sunlight, and he felt that rather than just have a contractor, whoever might be hired to do the planting, that if he got involved, we could pick these spots strategically as to where they needed to be planted and would do the best in terms of growing. And again, that's along this particular area here, all the way along the backs of the existing houses.
Yeah, Jay, I'm not seeing your cursor moving, so I don't know where. I believe you're going to the left of the detention bay, correct?
It's to the left of the basin, between the basin and the property lines. It starts at the proposed roadway extension, and it would run southerly, essentially all the way down to the end of the clearing adjacent to Anita Roy's property. So it would be along Munson, it would be along Appleton, and it would be along, I'm having a hard time reading, Edward and Shirley Mikulski, I believe. So there would be plantings along all 3 of those properties. And it's notated on the plan that we're showing red cedar, but as I said, Jeff Folger would be along and would be pointing out where we should put these and how they should be planted and the best locations in terms of their performance and future growth. So it is proposed, and it was something that was considered, again, because the concern came up when we were before the Conservation Commission.
Okay, thank you, Jay. At this time, I just want to address, this will be my last question for tonight, but construction hours. There have been many of the residents that spoke had a concern about the construction hours. And I just wanted to hear once again, what are the allowable construction hours? I know South Windsor has, I believe, an ordinance.
Yes, we do, Chairman. I have it right here. We do have a construction ordinance that applies in our residential zone. So this project would be subject to it. In essence, construction cannot occur between 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. So you can work from 7 to 5 Monday through Friday with no, 7 a.m. through Saturdays. Bear with me just 1 second. The hours are 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. Monday through Saturdays, or at any time on Sundays. So you cannot work at all on Sundays or holidays. And 7 to 5 would be the hours.
Okay, but that includes Saturday at this time.
Correct.
And if we ask them not to work on Saturdays, I'm wondering if they would agree to that.
That would be a question for the applicant.
And they can answer that question the next time we come back. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to continue the public hearing to a future date in September. And I'm not sure if it'll be the 8th or if it'll be the 22nd. But I'd appreciate if somebody could make a motion to that effect, to extend the public hearing to our next.
Chairman, just one comment again, Jay Ursary from J.R. Russo. And as you know, and again, we appreciate you getting us on tonight, but this application has been hanging around for quite some time due to the COVID thing, and we understand that's nobody's fault, but if there's any possibility of getting on the earlier date, we certainly would appreciate that, just to try to keep this thing moving along. We feel that we have enough time to address all the comments and finish up and get Jeff Doolittle and Michelle the information that they need. But if there's any possibility of getting that earlier date, we certainly would appreciate that.
Yeah, and I do understand that, Jay. There is the issue that we might not be meeting on September 8th because the town council is meeting that night, or at least that's what the plan is. And we can't record 2 meetings at the same time, so.
Okay, I understand that. So if that were the issue, and any other earlier date that would be available, maybe the 15th or the 1st, or
Unfortunately, both,
we certainly would appreciate it.
September 1st and 15th have other public meetings that are going on that night. Now, we're kind of constrained. There's a possibility for the 8th. The town council is considering changing that night, but otherwise it would be the 22nd. So we should know in the next couple of days exactly what date we'll go forward with it. But unfortunately, the 1st and 15th are out.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So, I'm sorry, do we have a motion to extend the public hearing to our next date in September?
I'll make a motion to extend the public hearing to our next meeting.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Bonzani and I believe Bernstein seconded.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, Michelle, let's see. Do we have any bonds?
Yes, you should have received an email with bonds for the South Windsor, estates at South Windsor. There are 2 reductions of subdivision bonds and 1 calling.
And I unfortunately didn't receive that, so did the other commissioners receive it?
Steve's waving it.
Steve's waving it? Okay, well, we can address it.
Okay,
Somebody would like to make a motion.
am I the only one that has it? Because I'm happy to make the motion. I move that we reduce the following bonds on application 17-04P, South Windsor Estates, Phase 1 subdivision bond, and application, the same application, Phase 2 subdivision bond. First bond in the amount of $393,800, reduced by $195,800 with a balance of $198,000. The Phase 2 bond, originally $274,625, reduced by $164,625, leaving a balance of $110,000.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Flag. Discussion. Does this get those bonds to maintenance yet, or?
No.
No, they're still above maintenance at this time. The final coat of pavement's not there yet, so.
Okay, and South Windsor Estates is which project?
This is the Toll Brother project.
Okay,
Is that on Pleasant Valley Road?
so,
Toll Brother project off of Bram Road.
Okay.
And Nevers.
Nevers. We've did a site walk and we've issued them a punch list of items to address. So this bond leaves sufficient funds to address the remaining items that we had out there.
okay.
Michelle, there's another paragraph underneath that about initiating the calling of the letter of credit for application 15-11P. Is that included?
That would be a separate motion, right?
Yeah,
Separate motion, correct?
Okay.
okay. So staff is comfortable that everything can be done with the bond amounts that are left?
Yes,
Okay, and landscape is separate, correct?
correct.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any other discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the bond reductions, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, there's another motion needed. You want to do that, Bill? Commissioner Flaherty?
Initiate the calling of the letter of credit for application 15-11P, West River Farms LLC, in the amount of $20,000 for invasive plant removal and $12,500 for erosion and sedimentation control.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, if you could just say your name when you second, that way, I can't see you all.
Dexter, second.
Thank you, Dexter. Okay, any discussion? Okay, then I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Any more bonds?
No, that is it. Thank you.
Okay.
It is 9:30.
Okay, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by flag. Is there a second?
Bernstein, second.
Bernstein, second. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. I believe there'll be an email letting us know when our next meeting date is. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, James, I don't know, what, just because it closes?
You guys look downstairs.